Thank you. Prior to this evening's meeting, the board met in executive session to discuss some legal matters and personnel matters. And we covered everything, so we won't have to meet after the meeting. Okay. Item 2.03, motion and second, please, for approval to adopt tonight's agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gogler, second by Mrs. Gauss. Questions, additions, deletions, comments, discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so move. 3.01, Superintendent's Report. Mr. Bigger.
Thank you, Mr. Norcross. Just want to thank the board. Every year we go through an annual review process, certainly with all employees, but the board set board goals this year, and I do want to read them just to remind you that you set goals and we work towards them. We have our own goals in the district, certainly, but they're in line with the school board goals. So you want to strive to improve academic achievement and social growth while instilling a desire for lifelong learning. So reflect on the accomplishments we've made. Allocate the needed resources to recruit and retain highly effective staff. Communicate openly and respectfully with all stakeholders, and provide a safe and welcoming learning environment by enhancing physical facilities. And I think you can find a nice large body of evidence where we've made progress in all those goals. So thank you for setting them, but also for following them and moving forward with the goals. It's nice for the organization to see that we have some guiding light and direction that moves us forward. I do want to say from the first presentation that I did on the state of the district schools about a year ago until now, we're moving out of phase one. Phase one, we internally called more about the system enhancements. So essential conditions, ramping up staffing, providing more intervention staff, the downtown engagement center. So we started to make some systemic changes, but we're going to shift to more of the work. Yes, we have a great configuration, but we haven't built anything yet. Yes, we have architects on board, but we haven't made any decisions exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to move more towards the action planning and implementation this summer. So you'll feel a little bit more of the action-oriented approach from the school district. All for that point of making schools of distinction. And we will get clear on what that looks like and what the options are available to our schools to become schools of distinction. There's more than one way to be a distinct school. And we do have diverse schools that allow some of those options moving forward. That concludes my report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bigger. Just some board notes, public notes regarding the board. There will be no meeting in July, or no scheduled meeting. Obviously, hope not, but if something pops up, we would meet. Right now, there's no planned meeting for July. To follow up on Chris's point, in the August meeting, start seeing a little bit more meat on the bone in regard to the schools of distinction. We'll start getting some more, down into the weeds a little further, getting some more information. Hopefully, it's 240 million or even less, but that's a number I'll continue to just remind everybody of. Everyone keep their eye on the ball until we get all bids in on 3 new structures, big structures. In 2 years, we won't know what that total is. We're hoping it's 240 million. We've requested some of the information. I'm not sure if we'll have that by August. There's a little more of a detailed breakdown of what these estimates involve. Different stages, the bidding stage, the actual construction stage, which is probably the hardest to estimate, but the least volatile. Construction management, everything else that goes with it. So we'll start putting some more information behind the $240 million for each building. Total of $240 million. And then schools of distinction, hopefully sometime, maybe as the school year starts back, maybe we can get the students involved in how we're going to brand this rascal. Some type of nice catchy slogan or something we can put on letterhead, hang on the wall, put on the newsletter. If the taxpayers are going to shell out $240 million for buildings, let's have a little bit of fun with it anyway and let the students be involved. So hopefully we can do that, but Don't worry. If we don't do it, I'll just keep talking about it. All right, and that concludes my report. Item 4.01, Annual Safety Report. Chief Carter, I'll preface this a little bit. Leadership, Chris, Fay, and myself, we had a real brief discussion on this Friday. And this historically, briefing has been done in executive session because we never want to get into safety, too deep into safety specifics and security. So, but it doesn't have to be an executive session. And it's one of my rules of thumb that for 12 years now, I've tried to practice what I preach. And it's not a matter of should or shouldn't it be an executive session. If it can be in public, then it should be in public. If it can't be in public, well, then it has to be executive session. But if it can be in public, so we'll see how this goes. And if Chief Carter has some specific things that are more executive session material, we can talk about that in August or some other time. But this is the annual report required by school law. Chief Carter.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and get started. These are some basics that we're going to cover, our compliance, training, safe to say. These are the things that I'm going to be touching on throughout our review. So currently we are in the process of coming into compliance with Act 44. We're still in the process of getting our MOUs returned from the State Police and Sheriff's Department and Chambersburg Borough. They have the MOUs. They're the same thing that we do every 2 years, so we're updating that now. There's not going to be any issues. They're just, whether it's a town council or whether it's a captain that has to sign them, so it has to go through a process before we get those back. Couple things that we're doing is updating our all hazards plan. I can happily report that all of our schools, as of a month ago, have had risk vulnerability assessments completed by the Pennsylvania State Police, including the DAO. So that would be all 18 of our buildings actually have had that done. That's one of the requirements from Act 44. Just some things that we've done as far as ongoing safety, technology projects. Just wanted to touch on a couple things here. The 3M coding, our schools have that at this point in time. Door access management, we've really worked hard on making sure our schools are safe and make sure our entrances are as robust as we can, and we have a visitor management and entry system. One thing that we added this year was Matrason's weapons detection systems, which we tried out in October. We actually purchased several of those systems to be used literally all over the district. It just depends on the event or what we have going on, but they're mainly going to be for athletic events to start, and then the possibility of doing some scans and things in our secondary schools, and if we have elementary schools, some of those events we might use those systems. They were actually purchased through grant funding, through PCCD grant. So we did a lot of things this year with our grants. Our meritorious grant, we bought more radios to have better communication throughout the district. And then with the PCCD grant, we actually purchased the weapons detection systems. Our K9 and our handler, Officer Confer, was trained down in Texas with our K9 gunner. And then we also used some of those funds to actually bring on another school police officer this year. So we've done a lot of things, as far as those grant funds go. Do have a picture of Officer Confer here in Gunner. He's actually presenting at one of our schools here at South Hamilton Elementary, which is a really good program. Some of the things that you see there, he would actually, basically he would, in those boxes that you see in that picture, we would have some type of of an agent that we would put in that box, inert, and then Gunner would actually find it, and then what it does is once he finds it, it actually shoots a ball in the air. So it's more of catch and fetch for Gunner. The kids could see it, they can enjoy that. They asked a lot of questions. This group in particular, and we've done this across the district when we've been asked to do it, but this group in particular, I'll bet you they asked 100 questions about everything you could think of about Will and Gunner, and Will was pretty intimate with them by the time it was all said and done. But we are doing some programming now. We're doing some searches in our secondary schools. This is more of a community service animal and canine that we use for, use it for, and more of a positive relationship builder, especially in our elementary schools. Middle schools too, everybody wants to pet the dog, so we're working through that process right now. It is a working dog, so we have to be a little cautious of that, because the last thing we would want is to have somebody, surprise gunner or gunner turn on somebody and actually bite them. So we're easing him into that process. He was just recertified in June, just last month, over in York County. So the gentleman from Texas came and certified 6 canines from across the state, so we're certified for another year. So we're pretty happy to say that Gunner and Will are doing really well right now with the program. So next is safe to say. Total safe to say incidents that we had was 219 safe to says, and these incidents are through the safe to say program through the Attorney General's office. Life safety tips, we had 27 of those, and they are the ones that we are really concerned about. Not that we're not concerned about all of them, but they're life safety tips where students talking about harming himself. So between us, PSP, and the Chambersburg Borough, every one of those gets worked individually. We make sure to get the principals involved, the counselors involved, so that there's a house check and a parent check and a student wellness check done on all those. So it's a large number, 27, but in the grand scheme of things, the number's very small, but we take those very seriously. The other one, non-safety tips, 192. If you guys remember at the beginning of the school year, we had talked about, we had the one incident which brought us in over close to 50 what were threatening social media threats. Every one of them were very similar in nature. We worked at the whole way into North Carolina, Tennessee, you name it. We were tracking down social media tips to make sure that our schools were safe and our kids and our faculty were safe to come in. But we got 44 of those literally in a 2-day span, so that's why our numbers are high. If you take those 44 away, believe it or not, our safe to say tips are lower this year than normal. So, I feel pretty good about that. But what you have to understand about safe to say is it's an anonymous reporting program. We want the kids and parents and faculty alike to be able to report things, and we want them to actually report them. That way, if there's something that's out there, we don't miss it. It's something that we wouldn't normally hear about. So we do encourage, when we talk to the middle schools and we talk to the high schools, even the elementary schools, we started into some 5th grades, we encourage them to use that program, even if there's any question, because that way it gets looked at by law enforcement, children and youth, PSP, whoever it is. All these tips are vetted, either by principals or by law enforcement. So any questions on safe to say? I know I kind of touched on that one very quickly, but that's something that we really like to latch on to because it's a very good program for us. As far as our police department ourselves, from August of 2024 through June of 2025, we handled over 1,100 incidents throughout our schools, and that can be anything from assisting staff, that can be talking to students, that can be presentations, meetings, speeches, you name it across the board. That's everything that we handle. We also conducted approximately 1,140 school visits. So that's our officers, and really that's 4 officers going to all of our schools as many times as we can, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly. We try and tally those visits and get into the schools as much as we can, just to show that our guys are out there and being seen and doing programming. Other things that we do, we attend all of our drills. Again, we try and go to football games, basketball games, our bigger events, as far as the police department goes. So some types of incidents that we handled this year. Possession of tobacco, vaping is a very large concern of ours at all of our secondary schools, but our 2 middle schools, CMS and the high school. Believe it or not, we have some kids bring alcohol into school sometimes, which is a very small number, but we have had a few of those. Another big one for us is our disorderly conduct. Disorderly conduct is when kids get into fights, and unfortunately, between us and the administration, we, have to deal with those. Possession of drugs, we do have some kids that still dabble in THC in the vapes, and also every now and then marijuana, but it's mainly the THC and the vapes, unfortunately, that we're dealing with. Weapons on school property, they've all been knives. We had, I think, almost 10 of those this year, which is not a large number, but it's still, for me, being a director of safety, that's 10 too many. But, we have a lot of kids reporting things either through Safe to Say, or talking with teachers and teachers talking with principals and then them coming to see us. So, we do a very good job of working through that. So some of these things are investigations that we've looked into this year. Quickly, children and youth referrals, 459 total referrals this year for our entire district. And literally, they come in several a day, sometimes up to a dozen a day, fortunately or unfortunately. You know, every one of these goes to children and youth. Then from there, they're vetted out, whether it's a law enforcement investigation, PSP, CPD, or us, or they actually conduct an investigation, either internally or where they're doing home visits, you know, depending on the circumstances. But literally every school, you know, we're mandated reporters, so, you know, we're reporting things and bringing things about. It could be for attendance, it could be for, you know, students aren't being provided medical attention at home or what we believe is proper medical attention. So really it runs the gauntlet, you know, with those children and youth referrals. So the larger schools have more referrals than the smaller schools. That's where some of the numbers are. One thing that we've really harped on in the last few years, last 2 years really, is threat assessments and screeners, suicide screeners and screeners in general. 2 years ago, we had our entire administration, counselors, social workers trained by the FBI, the state police, and the Franklin County District Attorney's Office and myself on the threat assessment process. Just June 2nd of this year, we actually brought back in the FBI. Same guy's name is Special Agent Jeff Ford, and we had him speak with Trish Majeski to our staff at North and South in reference to sextortion. So we've really partnered with them to work our way through this threat assessment process, and I believe that we're really a lot further ahead than a lot of districts. But I'll show you some numbers here, and you know, the screeners can be the screeners are statements that a student made, or you know, a student makes a threat that's not an official threat that we would look into maybe to arrest somebody. So we're screening them, making sure that their mental health is okay, making sure that the threats are transient as opposed to substantiated. Elementary, we had 50 of those and 16 assessments. Middle, 2 and with 0 assessments, and the assessments are the true full-fledged threat assessments, which you want that number to be minimal, especially at the secondary level. And then at the high school level, we had 4 screeners and 5 assessments. So, you know, our numbers are, they seem high in elementary. Unfortunately for us at the elementary level, what we run into is kids say things that they don't really mean. So those numbers go up because you have to take all those just as seriously as you would anybody else. So what we're doing is we're putting social workers, possibly a psychologist, we're bringing the parents in, and there's a group communication about a threat that's made. Be amazed at how many kindergarten through 5th graders say things that we want to look into, and then we try and make them understand that what they're saying is not right, or if they need services, then we try and get involved and make sure that all those kids have services so that we can work our way through that process and there's no real threat to it. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, again, some school climate stuff. Act 55, we're up to date on our Act 55 training, which is mandated. It's 1 hour in person, 2 hours of virtual or online training, which we've done very well with, and that's been very well received. You know, within our district, we do speeches, programming, awareness. We work with the Pennsylvania State Police and the Chambersburg Police Department in working through that. One thing that we did this year to try and you know, build a little more trust in public health and safety was we actually had at Stevens Elementary a health and public safety night where we had, I think it was 35 or 38 different vendors, police departments, county agencies come in and just, you know, open themselves up to, you know, our students and our staff and the public. So I think the event, unfortunately, was on a Tuesday night. There was a board meeting. There was a lot of stuff going on. It happened to be a decent Tuesday, so we had a good turnout, but we're hoping to build off of this and maybe rotate that around the district. But, you know, we had, you know, several hundred people actually attend that, which we thought was a great event for us. Required drills and planning. So as of the end of the school year, the drills that we run, hide, fight, fire, evacuation, shelter in place, weather drills and reverse evacuations. We did, every school did the required drills. We had one that couldn't get it in because of weather-related things, but you know, we were 99.9% on all of our drills. You know, our officers try and attend those drills. Most of those drills, I shouldn't say most of them, those drills are mandated by law. So, you know, everybody, we don't want to take away from educational time, but at the same time, you know, we're running drills to try and be efficient and trying to make sure we communicate with kids, you know, safety-related items and things that we want them to be aware of, you know, in the event of an emergency. Just some individual things that we do, and they're more our officers. I give them a to-do list at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, and we go through and we kind of do our own risk vulnerability assessment of every school, every premises, inside and out, and just take a 20,000-foot view. So our guys, you know, our officers do that at the end of every year, and just to make sure that, you know, we're on par with where we're supposed to be. And it might be something as simple as we have a run, hide, fight poster in every classroom. You know, we have evacuation stuff so that people know how to get to where they need to be in the event of an emergency. You know, we have numbers on our windows. So there's a whole litany of things that we actually do, and we make sure that, and they're based on the risk vulnerability assessments we receive back from PSP. So we try and be as stringent as we can about, you know, all of our safety things, making sure we do a radio check every year. We collect them, make sure the batteries are good. You know, we do a camera check every year, make sure there's nothing that's imposing any views of our cameras. So there's a ton of things that we do as far as safety and security. I know I covered everything very quickly, but does anybody have any questions?
Board members.
Yes, Chief. A great laydown, thank you. I have two questions. One is, they're both related to evacuation. One is a reverse evacuation.
So a reverse evacuation is if you're outside, you evacuate back inside.
Okay,
Yep. So.
that was easy.
Mhm.
Next one is, there was an incident in Ohio a couple years ago that devastated the community because of a rail train accident.
Mhm.
And I happened to be looking at some tanker cars going by on the tracks that are just not too far away, looking like it had a lot of hazardous stuff in them. And in the evacuation planning or tabletop exercise, is there a scenario where something like that happened, a prevailing wind, and it would bring this toxicity into this area, and, you know, and then how do you get the kids out of here to where they live and all that? Are you thinking about that stuff?
I'm kind of hoping you were going to put that together for me and give it to me tonight.
I'll get on that, right?
No, I'm just kidding. That's kind of so we've done larger tabletop exercises every year since I've been here, except for this year, where we have county control, we have fire departments. So everybody comes into the table and we actually work scenarios. I know from county, you know, you have the South Central Joint Terrorism Task Force that, you know, can bring a lot of resources. So we're in constant communication with them as far as, you know, the what ifs. And that is part of their plan. That's part of the hazmat team's plan. You know, Fort Indian Town Gap would be involved with that. So there is a plan for it. It's just, it would start at our level and work its way up and then work its way back down. But yes, we do have a plan for all that.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I had a comment. Of course, I went on
I was going to say, you're not going to talk about the fire drills again,
the
right?
ride along. Yeah, yeah, no, seriously. And again, I want to thank you for this presentation and all the things that you guys do. I've seen it firsthand, and what you have to deal with. Not that it's bad, but I just saw how all the officers, how they handle themselves. That was really it was great to see. One of the questions I had, and this probably might not be for you, but it comes to the cameras, maybe for Mr. Kirkpatrick. I know we were talking about getting cameras on the buses for the arm, or has that
working
already
on it.
been implemented, or? I mean to put you on the spot, but.
We do have many of our buses, both Chambersburg and contractors, that already have the stop arm cameras and the new camera systems in them that are high definition. And we're still working on replacing some of the older ones as well. We kind of do little bits at a time.
Yeah, we use those quite frequently if we have incidents on buses. We communicate with Craig, with us, with outside agencies, with principals. So I don't want to say daily, but I mean, we use them frequently, and it's a great tool for us, for sure. Yeah. Anything else?
Other questions? Okay, I'll just have one final, thank you, Chief Carter, and
Thank you.
I mean, it's information, it's maybe stuff that, some of the information you don't like to see or hear, but it is a reality, and I think it's better that we get an opportunity to share that with the public. And my caveat to that, Chief, is, you know, if there's things that you've had to sanitize that you would like to brief the board on in executive session, we can do that any time of the year. We don't have to wait for an annual report. So if there's anytime, if there's a time when there's more sensitive items, talk to Mr. Bigger, and we'll just do it in an executive session. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5.01, members of the audience are invited to comment on agenda items. I'll use the list for those who've signed in, but as normal, if you didn't sign in and you still wish to speak, you will get an opportunity. Valerie Jordan, item 7.03, I think that is.
I have two additional agenda items I'm going to address. Payment of bills. When one of your constituents complains about the rising cost of goods and services happening in our school district, please tell them you have no control over what Amazon charges our school district. That's the price of doing business with a billionaire. As for any cap associated with any future budget, all things are relative. You could have approved a budget at a 5% cap and wiped out the district's deficit. Deficits still have to be paid back. Vendors like Amazon need to be paid. Under the superintendent's report, thank you, Superintendent Bigger, about addressing students and their futures. I recently came back from a country, and Americans live there. We are a global society. 9 million Americans live outside the United States, and they're happy. Everywhere I go, I meet Americans, and I've been to a lot of countries, maybe 50, 60, I don't know. Maybe someday I'll visit them all, because I'm on my way. The other thing, under the President's report, I do not want anyone in this room to be worried about $240 million. Here's why. It's going to be spread out over time. I can die next year, and I don't have to pay the bond back. Okay? You're going to sell property. That will pay off the bond. Penn National, a big contributor, is still building homes in my development, and they're $1 million homes. We have those people coming. Patty Niederhouse announced 59 more homes in one section. So I don't want people to worry about debt. I've been paying debt since I've been paying taxes, okay? I paid them back in New Jersey. I've been through a lot of bonding, and I still live in my house. And one other thing, since I'm here, my school taxes over time have gone up $800. That's very reasonable because new people come in, new businesses come in, people improve their homes, they get reassessed. So I think it would be advantageous not to scare people here because we need to do this for our students. And I hope I don't hear it again, because if I hear it again, I'm going to keep repeating myself. Students need what they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jordan. Any other members of the audience wish to speak on any agenda items? Okay. Okay, hearing none. Go into section 7, consent agenda items. Items 7.01 through 7.26. First question is, are there any of those items that a board member would like to pull out of the consent agenda just for the purpose of a separate vote and/or any discussions or comments? You know, otherwise, anything's on a consent agenda, it's one motion for all items, one vote for all items, and we move on. But, board members, any items that anyone wants pulled to vote on separately or comment, discuss separately?
I'd like to pull item 7.15 for a separate vote.
Okay.
I'd like to pull 7.21 for comment, perhaps some discussion.
Mm-hmm. Any others?
Yeah. 7.22
7:22,
for a comment.
okay. And I'm going to add 7.05 to that list. So, of just, the items that we're gonna pull out of consent agenda will be 7.05, 7.15, 7.21, and 7.22. Are there any other items?
7.25, just for a comment.
And 7.25, others?
For clarity, if we're pulling 705, do we need to pull 704 as well?
Well,
Or not?
for what my purpose was, I mean, 704 just takes it off the table, and 705 is the vote on the actual,
So if
on
we
the
take it off the
action.
table, yep, okay.
But we can do that separately too, if you'd like.
It doesn't matter to me, I just,
Yeah.
I don't know what the appropriate process is, because they're tied.
Sure.
What was the first one, Mr. Haydock, that you said?
705, 715, 721, 722, and 725. And I really appreciate the short version, because I couldn't page through those pages quick enough. Okay, with the exception of those five items, I'll read them again: 705, 7.15, 7.21, 7.22, and 7.25. A motion and second to approve the other items, please.
Motion to approve, all the rest.
Motion by Mr. Haydock, second by Dr. Diller. Let the administration, any comments or any of those items you would like to provide any information on to the board prior to the vote?
Nothing from my end. Mark, anything, Tina, Tammy?
No.
Okay. Board vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. Moving on to the five items we separated. 7.05, first addendum to stipulation of settlement of tax appeal, Menno Haven. Motion and second, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gogler, second by Mr. Raber. Board members, questions or discussions? My comment, one of my reasons for wanting to pull this is the second time around for this, this is the first addendum, but this is the second time around for this agreement with the taxpayer. This is a renewal of an agreement that the board entered into 5 years ago. And it's a renewal for another 5-year term. Roll call, please, Mrs. Stauffer.
Dr. Diller?
Yes.
Ms. Gogler?
Yes.
Ms. Gauss?
Yes.
Ms. Harbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Haydock?
Yes.
Mr. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Norcross?
No.
Mr. Raber?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1.
Thank you. Item 7.15, Chambersburg Area Education Association Collective Bargaining Agreement. Motion and second, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McKee, second by Ms. Harbaugh. Mr. Bigger, any comments from the administration? Then we'll turn it over to the board members.
Just general comments. Appreciated working with the association through the process. You know, it was a 4 or 5 month process. Covered a lot of topics. We're just thankful we worked in a collaborative environment. The CAEA has already voted and approved the contract, so it's up to the board to vote it down or approve it. But I do want to thank everybody that was involved. A lot of data analysis, a lot of discussion back and forth that we thought was productive. We learned a lot about each other. We learned a lot about our struggles, but also some opportunities. So just thank everybody for the process.
Board members, questions, comments, discussions?
I just would like to say a few words. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody that worked on the contract. And I really believe the teachers need a contract that reflects their ongoing dedication to working with their students. So, you know, thanks to all the teachers. So it's difficult for me to vote on a teacher contract that is directly tied to the proposed 2026-27 school calendar. Therefore, mine will be a no vote, but it's not about the teachers. But my opposition is to the 2026-27 calendar. I believe the proposed calendar is not placing the academic instruction of our students as a priority.
Okay. Other questions, comments? I'll go last, and I won't go last if anyone else wants to talk now. I think the contract terms are fair, and we don't negotiate in public, so I won't go into those details, but it will be public soon enough, officially public. But I believe the compensation and the terms are fair, and I support the compensation and terms. One thing, again, we don't negotiate in public, but I've shared this comment in executive session with my fellow board members. I've probably said it in public several times over the past 12 years too. And I go back to 12 years ago when I was at my first school board training, and Chris laughs at me every time because he was there. We were at the middle school, James Buchanan Middle School, one Friday night and Saturday for a two-day board training, all the districts in the county. And I don't remember who the facilitator was, but there's one part of that still sticks in my mind, and the facilitator told us, you know, don't get too confused with being a school board member. I'm paraphrasing. You have two primary objectives. I add a third one to that. And they said, one, you approve a school calendar, and two, you approve a budget. The subset to two is you approve to pay your bills also. But to me, that's all budget. Two primary goals as a school board director. 12, you know, a little less than 12 years ago, I still remember that today. I like to preach transparency, and I hope I practice it. I probably don't practice it as much as I preach it, and I apologize when I don't practice it. But when it comes to the school calendar, tonight is the first night this board will discuss school calendar in public. I just, again, as Dr. Diller mentioned, this contract is tied to a calendar, and we're going to vote on a contract, and the board has never once discussed a calendar in public open session. So that's why I will not be able to support the contract tonight, just because I think we are backwards from what I learned 12 years ago in my school board training. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Roll call vote, Mrs. Stalford.
Ms. Gogler?
Yes.
Ms. Gauss?
Yes.
Ms. Harbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hayda?
Yes.
Mr. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Norcross?
No.
Mr. Raber?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Diller?
No.
Motion passes 7-2.
Okay, 7.21, 2025-2026 third-party student placement agreement. Motion and second, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Harbaugh, second by Mr. Haydick. Anything from the administration first?
Just his question, whatever his question is.
Mr. Haydick.
Yeah, it's really more of a comment than a question. When one looks at all the external services that are provided by other non-school entities, it looks like a lot, and looks very expensive, and I think it'd be useful if the public knew exactly how difficult it was to do anything with some students, and we just don't have the capability.
Correct.
And there might be a little more discussion about that from the staff, the administration, to indicate it is a challenge, but it simply cannot be done in the district, so we must in fact pay the bill. And these are probably the most closest and convenient and efficient and effective organizations to do that. That's my only comment.
And the only other components, we try to put them all under one agenda item rather than filling up the agenda with one item for each one.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I appreciate that as well.
I used to have to abstain from one because of conflict with a family member on a board, but I don't have to do it anymore. Any other questions or comments? Item 7.21. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. 7.22, 2025-2026 ATSI School Improvement Plan. Dr. Long, first tell me what that acronym stands for. That's all right, I don't know either, so.
I know it's just caught me off guard.
I'm sorry. That's okay, it doesn't matter.
Sorry.
Tell me in August.
Academic targeted student improvement.
Thank you.
Whoa, all right. Was that a double Jeopardy question?
I think so.
Okay.
I think I can get like a bonus for that.
What is ATSI? All right. Questions, comments? Someone had a,
Yeah, that was my question here.
oh, wait a minute, we didn't do motion and second.
No,
did
we
we?
didn't.
They use that.
Motion and second, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Haydick, second by Mr. McGee. Sorry, I jumped the gun on my question, Dr. Long. Mr. Haydick, your question or comment, please.
Yeah, I detected from looking at the voluminous amount of information that's on that report, that there are improvements being made. But often I would see that the improvements fall very far short of where the target is. And I'm wondering if in the future, we might have a graphic that would depict a projected improvement line, and then our actual tracking with that line to see if we're kind of on track. Because just looking at the data itself is very difficult to make that kind of distinction. That's my only comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, roll call, or not roll call, excuse me. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. Item 7.25, gifts, grants, and donations. Motion and second, please.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gauss, second by Dr. Diller. Questions, comments?
My comment is simply that the gifts, grants, and donations is on almost every month, and I feel that we need to publicly, every month, but I don't do it, express appreciation for what the community is doing for the district. I particularly want to call your attention to the Feeding Schools Kids Initiative. You know how near and dear to my heart school lunch, breakfast programs are, and this money, over almost $13,000, is a donation from Giant to reduce student debt for meals. And I just feel that every single one of the donors need to be aware of our appreciation for what they give, but I especially am impressed with that figure to reduce school lunch, or school debt, meal debt.
I've got a comment off of that, great segue. Yeah, I agree with you, Mrs. Gogler, and, but I'd also like to clarify, when I pay my bill at the Giant, and I'm asked, do I want to donate to, and that's where
That's
my money's
correct.
going, right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Bethel Assembly of God. We have a substantial donation from them on this particular report, $5,500 to improve the press box at the Trojan Stadium. And I think that's a huge deal for us. So thank you to that local church. I think they're adjacent to one of our elementary schools, Ben Chambers, so it's pretty cool to see them pitching in like this.
Yeah, that's why I said every month we need to be publicly
Yep.
thanking the many people, and it's only because the school meals are so important to me personally
Yep.
because of my concern for food insecurity and so forth, that I point out that one. It's not to diminish even the smallest donation.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. Other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. Item 8.01, 2026-2027 school year and 2027-2028 academic school year calendar. Mr. Bigger. Or, actually, motion and second, excuse me.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Gogler, second by Mr. Hayden. Mr. Bigger, now your turn.
Yep. Over the last 6 to 8 months, long process, lots of people involved, lots of moving parts, and I think over time we made adjustments. We listened to feedback, made as many adjustments as we could to make it work and still honor some of the components that we do need. I will make just one pretty direct comment about the calendar. The number one determinant of student achievement in the classroom is the quality of the teacher. That's the single piece of research you can take from any research. So hopefully this, over the next 2 years, as we ramp up schools of distinction, we modernize our curriculum, we look at some changes in how we teach, that this time will be utilized very well to move us towards that direction. And then reevaluate it after the 2-year window to see if a traditional calendar is more appropriate at that time or continue moving forward. I think I've done enough VISME and presentations and a couple public forums on this to know what all the information is that's out and available. If there are additional questions the board can ask, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay, board members. Mr. Haydick?
Yeah, I spoke to a lot of people, parents, students, teachers in the district, and teachers that have just retired from the district, asking questions about their perception of this new calendar. And I was encouraged by what I heard. I also would like to say that I think there's a lot of information on social media that is not correct. And a lot of people take that information and run with it, and it gets disseminated, and it causes some problems. But personally, I reflected on how we got to where we are with student performance. And it's with the traditional calendar. And I think an opportunity to change might make a difference. And if it doesn't, well, we can revert back to traditional. But do we have a back door to get out of it if it doesn't work out?
Yep.
But if what we've been doing for many, many years got us here, I don't think we're going to get much of a change if we continue to do that. So I say, let's give it a try. That's why I would vote yes on that proposal.
Other board members?
Most of you know my phrases that I like to use. One that I want to use in this case is continuity gives us roots. And doing the same thing is that continuity. And we have roots, but change gives us branches, letting us stretch and grow and reach new heights. And we aspire to have new heights in our schools of distinction by 2030. And without change, I don't see that we're going to reach those schools of distinction. And so I am 100% in support of the attempt to improve our professional development and the impact that that's going to have on students, I think is going to result in improvement.
I'm in agreement. I think, and I had some discussions with Ms. Harbaugh also on this topic, and I think that I don't do well with change a lot of different times. I'll come home from the gym and my wife has moved furniture around. Good Lord.
We get up in the middle of the
And
night.
I know I'm gonna crack my toe on that, piece of furniture that I didn't realize was there. But in the end, I, got over it each time, and I'm not equating, moving this school calendar around to moving furniture. I know it's way more complicated than that, but I think we have bigger, issues at stake when it comes to educating our kids. And this is our attempt to, get us heading in the right direction. So there's going to be some growing pains, hopefully not too many busting our toe on the end table or whatever's in the way, but I just encourage us all to lean into it and recognize that we're everybody here is trying to do what's best for our children's education, so.
Well, I have some information here that I pulled together that I'd like to put out to the public because of the misinformation that people speak about. During the 2022 to 23 school year, our students in the Chambersburg School District attended school 180 days. During the 2024 to 25 school year calendar, it was taken down to 176 school days, which was a loss of 4 days. And at the time I sat on this board, I thought, well, that's okay because we need some in-service on those 4 days. They probably need that in-service. And so I didn't say much of it. I recognized it. It just went smoothly that those 4 days were removed for the kids and nothing was said. But now we want to propose taking out another 4 days and replacing it with 15 minutes at the end of the school day. So the way I've been looking at it is I've tried to wrap my head around it. I've tried the whys. Why are we doing this? And that loss of 8 student days, I taught 2nd grade and I know what it's like to teach reading and how important that is. I taught 1st grade. I'm a reading specialist. And if we don't get our kids reading by 3rd grade, we're in trouble. And taking away those 8 days is a concern of mine. Another thing is we have been making up snow days. So if we have 4 days that we lose in the school year, suppose we lose it in January or February, those 4 days now make it 12 days. But they'll make it up at the end of the school year, which everybody knows at the end of the school year is not a good time to be for education. It's just not. So there's the possibility that our kids are going to be out of going to school for 8 days. We've already lost the 8 from the original calendar, and we're going to put these 15 minutes on at the end of the school day. Those 15 minutes on the end of the school day basically equate to the 8 days that we're not going to have it in school. For me, I want to see those kids in school on Fridays. I don't want them home sitting, lounging at home, trying to keep them off of their computers and their games and that stuff. It's very important that they're in school, especially for your K1 and 2 kids. So I say to myself, is adding 15 minutes to the end of the school day more educationally sound for students? And I say to myself, I can't go there. I just can't go there. I've been in education for 40 years. I can't say yes to this. And in all my decisions in education were what's best for students. Well, it's best for students to be in the classroom and not home on Fridays. Some of those kids will not be attended. We have 300 homeless kids. We have special education kids. We have needs that kids need to be met. So then I pulled out the data. I looked at where are we at the end of 3rd grade in reading. And nine schools in our school district are at below 50% or below. 2 of our schools only have 21% of their 3rd graders at the end of 2023 to 24 who are proficient. So if we line those kids up, 10 kids, 7 of them are not proficient at the end of the school year. And we think it's fine to take those days out of school. Well, I just would hope that this board would consider putting back some of these school days. Even if we put 4 back, that would be a start. That would be a help. And then, why are we doing a 2-year calendar? Why are we not evaluating at least after the first year? I don't know. And I agree, the most important thing in the classroom is a quality teacher. I totally agree with that, and that makes all the difference in the world. But why would we take away those days from a quality teacher when they can be sitting there with those kindergarten first graders and second graders and make sure that we get them reading on grade level? Because when we don't, we are causing them to have lots of problems going through school because everything is based around reading. You can get the math, but once you've missed out on the phonics and the writing and all those things that go into it, you're destined for a hard time in school. And many kids do have a hard time in school. And I've heard from a lot of people, but there are a lot of people out there that kids are going to be hurt by this. And I've tried in many ways. I've counted up hours. I've gone through staff development lists. I've looked at calendars. I've really put the time into it. My husband said, "Can you stop looking at this?" And so anyway, I have to vote no to this calendar because it's not, the decision is not about kids, and they should be first.
Chris, I'd like to ask you a question for clarification. Going through and looking at the side-by-side presentation that was given, and looking at that, it's my understanding that with these proposed calendars, that the students will actually spend more time in the classroom in front of their teachers, 36 hours more than the traditional calendar that we currently have.
That's
Is
correct.
that accurate?
That's correct.
Can I, one way in?
So,
It really just depends on where you put the time.
okay, so the potential is there.
Yeah,
That
so if you.
students
right.
would be spending 36 additional hours in front of their teacher with this proposed calendar than what they are right now, which could maybe assuage some of the concerns that people have about them losing time in the classroom because clearly they would not be. Is that an accurate statement?
Correct. When you look at just straight classroom time, absence where you put the 15 minutes, yes, we will report to the state more classroom instructional hours.
Okay.
At the end of the year.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Can I add to that? When we looked at 180 school days and the 8 days, if you add up the time in the 8 days and you add up the hours in the 8 days, those extra hours that Stephanie's talking about, it's a wash. It equals the same. It's very close.
It's 36 more hours because the early dismissal days are removed as well.
Say that again?
The early dismissal days were removed, which was a net negative in the old hours.
Oh,
So
so
you have to add the hours back in from the early dismissal
So
days.
then it would only be the early dismissal hours that would be the
It's-
extra, not 36.
It's 36 total more hours, yes.
up what you were pulling out from early dismissal.
Yeah, when you add up,
And the way
right,
they reconfigured some of the vacation.
correct.
The side-by-side shows you hours versus days
Correct.
each month as it goes.
That's correct.
It's a good presentation.
And what year was that comparison? This year
This
versus?
traditional calendar. that
This
we
year,
currently
the
have-
year we just concluded.
No, we did a traditional for 27, or 26, 27, and a
Yeah, what it-
updated.
Yeah, what it would be in 26, oh, sorry, what it would be in 26, 27 versus what it would be in the proposed new calendar, and it's side by side. So in some instances, and Chris, you can correct me, I'm not exact on the numbers, you have the same amount of days in each month, but maybe an hour different.
That's correct.
And one of the months, and I'm pretty sure it's April or May, you actually have a significant jump in the hours because,
April.
yeah, I mean, is it
April,
April?
yes.
So you have a significant jump. You have the same amount of days, but because you're adding the 15 minutes in, you have that jump. So when it's all told, adding the 15 minutes, getting rid of the 2-hour early dismissals, it's 36 hours
That's correct.
net positive that students will be in the classroom.
Yeah, one other thing I'd like to say, if we think that these 15 minutes at the end of the day is so valuable, and it's in the contract for the next 2 years, why don't we have the 15 minutes plus add some Fridays back in so that we get even more instruction? Because our results in our district would lead one to believe that having more time would be beneficial, especially when people think that this 15 minutes is going to make a big difference educationally. And I've been in the classroom, and I know what 15 minutes does for you.
Is it still the intention to use some of those Fridays for intervention purposes possibly? Or
Not
is
at this
that,
time, no.
that's, okay, just,
That was the first calendar proposal. It
'Cause
was
that
more
was-
aggressive on that.
okay. That is something that we could circle back to, though. If there's a concern about reading by third grade or kids being behind, there's not any reason that we can't approve this. The contract has already been approved. There's no reason that we can't approve this and then circle back to that concept even a year from now.
That's correct.
But this is a 2-year venture that you're going out, not 1, 2.
But even within this framework, you could add that component.
I also know how
Is
that
that,
goes.
is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you have the authority, the board has the authority to make changes to the calendar. Sometimes when we have a lot of snow days, we come and update it in February. So generally, my approach has always been give the parents and families and community enough notice in advance, multiple years, and they can respond, whether it's a vacation, whether it's an adjustment, looking out multiple years is really helpful to them.
Chris is, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. McKee?
Yes, let me say, I appreciate how you put that together for us to see. That was I'm a visual person, and it was very well done. The question, of course, I get asked, what about, what's gonna be, childcare, it's extra childcare, whatever. I know right now, some in the districts, after school, you have your YMCA or your, if
Right.
I'm, help,
Boys and
is there
Girls
gonna
Club.
be any look at that, for the families that may need or whatever? I'm just asking.
I think from the
You know.
first calendar, the answer was yes, we were looking down. We had met with a couple vendors as well as with the Y and the Boys and Girls Club. We were starting that, but because we moved it to 15 minutes only of an increase and also moved a couple days back in, we didn't think the change was as substantial. When you look at the disruption of the early dismissals, in addition to in-service in a traditional calendar, there's less disruptive days. You had
Yes.
12
Yeah.
before plus the in-service days, so you're pushing that 17, 18, 19 number. And now we're at the 10 during the school year in-service days with 2 days at the end of the year for early dismissal for graduation
Right,
and last day.
right.
So total days disruption for families is less in comparison to traditional when you add the early dismissals and the in-service days. So with the less disruption in days, we felt that was
You're
acceptable.
talking about your Act 80 days,
Yep,
correct?
that is correct.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood. That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Personally, I kind of preferred the original proposal that you had slightly more than this, because it did give you more of a framework that you could work with to build out a number of concepts that were being discussed. But I also understand that why you went back to the drawing board, and I think it makes sense. One of the ways I've thought about this as a parent, so we could talk about school days. You can also talk about the inverse of that. So right now, as a parent, I have to figure out childcare. I mean, I don't often think about it as childcare. I think about it as parenting. But somebody needs to be home, whether it's my wife or I or somebody else, right? Right now, in a typical year, it's 189 days. This new calendar will change that to 193 days. I think about that as, like, if you just do the math on that, it's a 2% increase. And so if I as a parent can find a way to do 189 days, I think that most parents can find a way to do 193. It's still an increase, right? And we're not trying to be insensitive to that, but I don't think that 2% is a game changer for most people. There are lots of other factors that are actually more significant in creating childcare difficulties for people. So that's kind of how I've come to be at peace with that particular piece of it, which is crucial and important.
With the
Yes,
new,
sir. Mr. Walker?
with this new calendar, this also gives us the ability to grow the teachers.
Yeah.
Right. And if we're saying that, the number one factor is the quality of the teacher, I think we also need to invest in our teachers and make sure that they're growing as well as the students are.
Yeah, I keep circling back to that. If this improves the quality, then the quantity is less important. I don't know that 15 minutes in and of itself is a game changer. I think it
Right.
partially depends on how you use that.
That's correct.
For our youngest kids, I'm a little concerned, to be honest. But there's nothing in this that says you can't use that to do additional breaks with kids or add movement into their calendar so that that 15 minutes is not exhausting. You know, I've heard from a number of parents with young kids, and I have some myself, that their kids are zapped at the end of the day, and I think that's often true, right? But if you use the time better, they might not be as zapped, even with adding 15 minutes. But you don't get there without the professional development. You don't get there without improving the quality.
Okay, Ms. Gauss, any comments?
I appreciate all the work that the staff and the community, PTAs, the forums, all the work that's been done. And this is like iteration 5 or 6. Pleasing so many people, trying so hard. It's about the quality. It's about the relationship with the community. It's about accurate information being received, which you've put out time and time again. I'm new here, but I think we have a lot of catching up to do. And that happens in the classroom, that happens with quality teachers, administration, and buy-in from the community. And I think you've done an outstanding job, and thank you to the community as well.
Okay, before I get into my comments, I'll back up a little bit. Some of my previous comments I've made, and Chris often coaches me up on this, but I continue to not listen to him on this one. He tells me I allow the board to talk too much, that I ought to streamline the conversation. I tell the board all the time, I'm gonna let you all talk as much as you want, because that's what I think we're here for. So I sit back and I'm just willing to let you talk, because that's what I think we're all here to do, as part of our public service. With that said, as I mentioned in my previous comment on item 7.15, it's a bit of a chicken versus egg scenario here. You have contract negotiations, you have calendar. As you could hear from the board discussion, and again, thank all the board members. I think it was a very robust, good conversation. I wish, like no one's business, that we could have had more of these conversations, discussions in public, not behind closed doors. I think that would have been helpful for all of us. I know it would have been helpful for me. But and you can't negotiate in public. So that's the other part of this chicken versus egg. It was really a fine line that everyone had to dance through. One thing, very early on in the process, we were provided, again, you heard there were several iterations of this contract. It started with maybe a 30 minutes more per day. But I remember an early document that we saw, and we always hand these documents back in so they don't leak out into the public. This was presented as a potential 1 to 3% cost savings. That was some meat on the bone to this fiscal conservative guy. And it perked my ears up. And this process has been going on 4 months now, 4 months plus or minus. I've never seen any of that documentation to see, is it 1%? Is it 2%? Is it 0.5%? What is that savings, if there are any savings? It was a great, flashcard to start with, but I haven't seen any information since then. Some comments that board members have made here, educating our kids, student performance, quality. I know there was, discussion, and we had this discussion a lot outside this boardroom on, how do you measure it? Minutes, hours, days? Mrs. Gauss mentioned quality. Is it quality of education versus quantity? And when I say quantity, are we talking days? Are we talking minutes? Are we talking hours? Quite frankly, I do not know personally. I tell people all the time, I build roads and bridges for a living, and I'm pretty proud of it. That's why I say it. But with that, I just have, I struggle. And then on a personal note, when I look at the calendar, and you can't always tell because of Memorial Day, because Memorial Day isn't always on the 31st. I think that changed in the Nixon administration before I was born. But, you know, you look at the calendar, you know, no snow days, then, you know, students come back, you know, a half a day after Memorial Day, and then we're done. I know many, many years ago, when we first moved up the start of the school calendar, in public discussion, when we approved the calendar, the goal was try to get it done ahead of Memorial Day, I guess the unofficial beginning of summer. I kind of grew to like that myself, and I don't have any children in the district now, but I thought that was neat. And again, I love this discussion tonight. I just wish we could have had more of it earlier, sooner. If we could have put as much effort into this discussion as we did schools of distinction, I think we would have been further ahead. I think the community would have been further ahead. And, you know, it comes down to informed decisions. And when you build roads and bridges like I do, I just still don't have enough information to make that informed decision. And that'll be the reason for my no vote this evening. So with that, Mrs. Stauffer, roll call, please.
Ms. Harbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hayduck?
Yes.
Mr. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Norcross?
No.
Mr. Raber?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Diller?
No.
Ms. Gogler?
Yes.
Ms. Gauss?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-2.
Item 10.01, policy and legislation. Discussion on policy 707.
We'll see who's there. We'll see if he's still there. Okay.
We're gonna take a pause because I missed the step in the consent agenda. So the president gets, I don't know, 30, 60 minutes after school detention or after board meeting detention or something.
15 minutes.
15 minutes, yeah. Yeah, 15 minutes versus a Friday, or 4 Fridays, whatever you want to call it, 8 Fridays.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I was supposed to do this after the staffing part of the consent agenda, and I forgot. So I don't know, is Mr., go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Bigger.
Rod, are you there by any chance? Rod Bernice? You tried to call in. We see you there. We know someone's there. We're just trying to see if you're out there. Rod is our new high school principal, approved tonight. He wanted to be here to meet you in person, but he had a planned vacation, but he wanted to call in just to say hi. So I really respect him for wanting to do that, but we're trying. Oh, there you go. Rod, we can't hear you yet. We hear you in the background by the sound guy, but we don't hear you in the public, so he'll still working on it. Not yet. They're working on it. Keep at it. Be patient.
Bueller?
Not yet. Rod comes to us from Manheim Central. He was assistant principal there for 3 years while he's trying to get the sound. Went through a rigorous process, and he was the nomination. Got to meet him once. He's done a tour of the high school. He's met some people. Very interesting gentleman. Lots of years of experience. He's a math teacher, 32 years. He's more of a veteran. He doesn't like being called that, but he's more of a veteran. A lot more to give back to the public school system, and we're excited to have him. I think he fits the bill for what we're looking for right now, and so happy he decided to apply. And he has some local roots that I think he wants to talk about, if we can get him. You want to do a microphone just back in the speaker back there? Yeah, I'll take mine. Go ahead, Rod. Give it a try.
Might have to take a rain check till August.
Go ahead, Rod. Try one more time.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
There we go.
Go ahead, Rod. We can hear you.
Go ahead, Rod. Give it a try. Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Rod.
Okay, so good evening. I am currently in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm at a conference called Facts Elevate. I'm one of the presenters. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to serve as principal of the high school. I'm honored to join the team, and I'm excited to get started. My goal is and will always be to support the students and staff and families by building strong relationships and creating a positive, safe, and focused school environment. I look forward to listening, learning, and working together to help every student succeed. Thank you so much for inviting me tonight. I'm honored to join the team, and I'm excited to get started. My goal is and will always be to support the students and staff.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brenize, and my apologies for the delay. I guess
See you in August.
in person.
Thank you.
Yep, are we good? Or do we have no echo? I still hear a little echo? No? No? Okay. All right. Item 10.01, discussion on policy 707, updated administrative regulation.
That one was
Mr. Baker.
just a promise to bring back to the board. That is the school facility, use of facilities update. So no major changes to it at all. That's just a promise to bring it back to the board. We delayed it, I believe, in the fall to bring it back this spring, and here we are, almost summer. So it's up for any discussion or comment. No change, just
No change,
informational.
okay.
Yeah, unless the board wants to revisit changes.
Do we have a report on, like, revenue from this?
Actually, I just ran the revenue report this morning, and we have generated just under $50,000 through the facility rental policy. That does not include the classrooms that we rented at Lurgan to River Rock, but this is just through the uses of the facilities.
Excuse me, does that include the money for the custodial in the revenue that's coming in?
It would. If they were paying for custodians, we would be booking it to the same revenue account. So that's in total.
So is that deducted from the 50, or is that?
That's just revenue. I didn't run that number yet. Yeah, we're not through the end of the year, you know.
It might be great to have a number that doesn't include the custodial at some point. Just for curiosity.
Is it a net number is what you're
Yes,
asking?
yes. Because the custodial, you know, that's not income because you have to pay it back out.
Does that include the banking arrangement? That's separate from the 50,000?
That would be separate. Yes.
That's a separate agreement. Okay. Any other discussions? Discussion, no vote.
Correct, it was just to bring it back up
Yep.
as promised.
Okay. Item 10.02, this will be a vote. First reading of policy. Motion to approve first reading of policy 707, which we just discussed, and 719.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Haydick, second by Mrs. Gogler. Questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by...
I have a question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Sorry.
sir.
A little late on the draw there.
That's okay.
So I want to say I am not a drone expert by any stretch, but I suspect there may be a requirement to register drones with the Federal Aviation Administration. And the requirement is, if it's a drone that weighs more than 0.55 pounds, which is a little over half a pound, or 250 grams, and up to 55 pounds, requires that registration with the FAA. Maybe there's an exemption I'm not aware of, but I didn't see anything with respect to that registration in the policy. So I suspect that might be an opportunity to just do a little more research and check that out.
So just for clarity, you want to see if there is a weight requirement for the registration to add to the policy potentially?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
I was excited to see this policy because an organization that I'm affiliated with just provided funds for a project in another county school where the teacher photographed farmland surrounding the school and did a really neat presentation to our organization about the project that she used the funds for these drones and the educational value that she demonstrated in the project that she used our money for was really impressive.
Okay. Any other discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, so moved. Item 10.03, second reading for policies. I'm going to skip the zeros. Policy 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 626. Motion and second, please.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Diller, second by Mr. McKee. Questions or discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved. Item 11, new business discussion only. Board members, this is your share, show and tell, ad lib time. Any items for
Yes.
discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I received an email regarding a volunteer opportunity related to the NJRTC program, and I'll forward the email to all of you tomorrow. I am suggesting that as board members, we consider participating with Commander Bruce Apgar and the NJRTC cadets in a community activity that's scheduled for early September. I'm suggesting that we consider having teams of 2 or more board members who would assist with the various activities that are listed on that email request for volunteers. My suggestion is based on a desire for increased teamwork beyond the board table, interacting with students and other members of the school community as their board representatives has been a great experience for me personally, as I've attended PTO meetings, participated in book readings, and various other events in my region. The kindness tunnels that we all participated in last year as an organized event, and some participated in this year, was another example of being out in the community. And one of our goals is to have communication with stakeholders. And students are stakeholders, the general public are stakeholders, and so I really believe that being involved in something like this project would be very beneficial. The reason I received the email, and possibly the rest of you didn't, is that I participated in 2 volunteer activities with the NJRTC and have been on their mailing list and so on. I'm not sure if any of the rest of you received that communication from Commander Apgar or not, but I will make sure that you receive the email tomorrow. And I think it's a real opportunity, and getting a working relationship among us in other ways other than just here at the board table, I think has an opportunity for team building among us. Thank you.
I'd like to comment on that. Thank you, Mrs. Gauger. I agree. That's a great opportunity. I have participated personally for 2 years now into the NJROTC Death March. It's a misnomer. No one died. But it is a challenge. But to see the interaction between the leadership, the staff with the students and the cadets, and to see the discipline and the leadership that they're developing of their own accord is fantastic. And if anything in our district we can be proud of, it's that program. And it's growing, and there's other students from outside the district want to be into it. And I say, welcome them all.
Other items, board members? Mr. Raber?
Yeah, I have another one. I noticed this week there was a tree in between the Cash's parking lot and Cash's, or along McKinley Street, that was cut down. And I've noticed in Chambersburg, sometimes trees come down with good reason, and sometimes they don't. They just come down because people don't understand the value of a tree. This one happened to be coming down with good reason. I think it was partially dead and was really creating a safety issue. So I'm glad it was taken down. The team that was working on it, they looked like they did an excellent job. So thank you to all of those folks. I've seen several trees come down on school property, and I've not seen trees go up. And I'm just curious to know, is there something we could do to be more intentional on that front? Every time we take down a tree, we plant 2 new ones. Because I think we're working from a deficit where for a long time, anytime I've seen one go down, I've not seen a new one. And it's not that there's no new trees anywhere on district property. Our PTO I'm involved with, we planted a bunch not too long ago. So, but I just wonder what's our approach there, and just trying to, because there's tons of value from a number of. I don't think I need to get into that here. I think we all understand that. But if we could be more intentional as a district about adding more trees, I think that'd be a real win. So I don't know if there's a need for a policy.
When we do the buildings, they'll be telling us to put a lot of trees in through the process of permitting.
I mean, you're saving on heating and cooling.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of guards and I forget what they call that when you put for houses when the cars pull in, it blocks. Ed, help me out. Come on, help you out. What do you
Noise,
call that?
you mean for noise?
Noise reduction, but also for
Correct.
headlights in cars related to residential when you pull into. I forget what they call it.
Yeah.
It's a permitting thing.
You get stormwater credits for them too, for your new stormwater facilities.
Depending on how you do it, what I'm proposing is something that you could get students involved with. You could get PTOs involved. It doesn't have to be entirely on the district either. I think there are creative ways to do it. And you could incorporate it into a science lesson, right? So I do know it can take work to plant trees. It's not, if it didn't, we'd be planting them as soon as we leave the meeting.
Yeah, I concur with that, Mr. Raber, and I think we're seeing a growth of asphalt and parking lots around the community and too few trees. And I'm thinking this is the kind of stuff I would like to see a club, the environmental club, get involved in and maybe give us a report. Those are the kinds of reports from clubs I'd like to see in the future. Second, though, it's not really new business, but I want to thank Dr. Long for the planning and the execution of the trip to the Dallastown Intermediary Elementary School. It was a great opportunity to see, in my mind, the vision of what Mr. Bigger brought to the district about, the changes in store. And the Dallastown facility was awesome, and it was a very, very well-spent day, and thank you very much, Dr. Long.
All right, two items I have on my list. One of them is sort of a carryover from previous discussion. Consent agenda 7.25, when we're discussing gifts, grants, and donations. I think one of the takeaways I heard from that, and I throw this out to my fellow board members, if we want to make that a separate item, that's something that we would put in section 9, finance and facilities, because usually it's a donation, so it's finance, and it's usually, sometimes it's for a facility. I don't know where that would fit, but going forward, is that something the board would, instead of, then we don't want to have to every month pull it out. If it's something we want out, let's just take it out, and Chris, you can decide which category it fits in, if that's okay with the board.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. My second item, and I've often made comments when we hear our naming rights presentations about, you know, I think we instituted that darn thing in 2016 timeframe, something like that, and we've never, ever updated the rates. So I'll keep preaching that, but I guess I hear there's something in the works. Similar to that, and I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about policy 707 here just a couple minutes ago, you know, we do have space in the high school where a financial institution uses it, and we receive revenue for that too. And that has not changed in many, many years. So if that's something that we should be looking at too, you know, the price of everything goes up unless you're using something at CASD, and then we just keep the price the same. That doesn't seem fair to the taxpayers. And yes, two of our jobs, approve a calendar and approve a budget, which includes tax increases. So I don't know.
No, I agree.
Okay. They were my items. Anyone else? Last call. Information, superintendent evaluation. Mr. Bigger mentioned that in his report for Mr. Bigger and the assistant superintendents. That was completed this past month. That's item 13.01, 13.02, disposal of books, equipment, and supplies. That's for information only. With that, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.